Let me toss you a couple more reader questions, Gary. These are two separate questions, but they're similar, so I'll let you take your pick of the two. A reader named Loretta asks, Gary, if our government could do one thing to stimulate our economy that it's not doing now, what would you suggest? And similarly, a reader named Fabio Franco, very nice name, says, if you could pass one law, what would it be? This was a question someone asked Hayek, who answered, I would enact a law that if Congress does anything for one American, it must do it for all Americans. So, Gary, take your pick of the two. If you were king for a day, if you were president without a Congress for a day, what would you do?
Well, these are both good and, as you said, related questions. There are a few things. I mean, one thing, it's very hard for me to say, but I'll give a few, just not very many. I think the two biggest challenges now facing the American economy is how to keep government spending under control in the longer run with the looming large increase in spending on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, entitlements, or what's called, and two, how to improve the long-term rate of growth of the U.S., which has been for the last 100 years around 2% per capita on the average. So these would be the two big goals. How to do it? On spending, I think a continuing reform of the entitlement program, extend the age of eligibility of Social Security to age 70, which, with some exceptions, but a large fraction of workers are capable and indeed willing to work through age 70 now in the developed world. The health is improved. They still have many years remaining in retirement after age 70. And so by doing that, and doing it much more rapidly than the current proposal for extending age, I think would have an enormous saving on Social Security and retirement spending. So that would be one simple thing to be done. Medicare, put a larger fraction of the costs of Medicare on the backs of the elderly who can afford to pay, the middle classes and the rich. Now, maybe you'll subsidize premiums as under Paul Ryan's plan, and the subsidy will be less for the middle classes and the rich, would be the right way to go. You find some other approach. But make people spend, to a large extent, their own money rather than other people's money. When you do that, again, economics shows if people are spending their own money, they find many more situations when they say, well, do I really need that? Do I need this visit to the doctor because I have a cold, and so on. I mean, that's basic economics, but it's important economics. So make people pay for more, particularly people who can afford it. You do that, you'll get much greater control of the Medicare. And on the growth side, two suggestions. One, flatten the income tax by reducing exemptions, and thereby you can lower marginal tax rates. So the disincentive effects of having high marginal rates is greatly reduced because you lower the rates. And two, concentrate on greater investment in the human capital of the average American, their education, their training, their health. Human capital is the most important form of capital in the modern world. Absolutely true, without a doubt. America is beginning to fall behind in the number of young people going to college and other dimensions of human capital formation. We're about 15th now. We used to be third or second. And therefore, that would be an area that needs more attention and great concentration.
Gary, our time is about up, but let me toss you one last question from a reader whose name is Lorenzo Perifon, who apparently knows that your intellect ranges very far and very wide, wants to know the following. Gary Becker, who is your favorite Jersey Shore housemate? Lorenzo said, mine is The Situation, but I suspect you prefer Snooki. Do you have an answer for that, Gary?
What's the question?
The question is, who is your favorite cast member of the MTV reality series Jersey Shore? Have you watched it?
No. No. If the question was, who's my favorite player on the New York Yankees, sports I know something about. MTV I don't know anything about.
And Gary, how's your tennis game? You still playing?
Yeah, I'm still playing. My tennis game is not as good or as it used to be, but I usually play with 3 graduate students here at Chicago. I take the best one as my partner, and we play against the other 2. And given that I'm playing with a good player, I do okay.
Gary, how old are you today?
80.
80 years old. Now, and you can assure us that your advice on upping the limit for Social Security is not based on your personal bias, correct?
Absolutely not. Yeah. No, I'm 80. I'm still going strong. I attended a birthday party for George Schultz a couple of months ago, and George Schultz, who was then 90 years old, said, and which is absolutely true because I know him very well, I'm still in the game. Well, I'll reiterate what George said about myself. I'm still very active. I work as hard as I did 10, 15 years ago. I still have ideas, still working on new things. So I think my parents both died young, and in my family, everybody died young. So the advances in medical and personal care have been enormous. So when I proposed we could raise the Social Security to age 70, and for a large fraction of workers, I think is unquestionably true if we look at the evidence on quality and quantity of life. And certainly in my case, I've been extremely lucky. I've been reasonably healthy, a lot of energy, and I'm still going, and I hope I'll be able to make some further contributions in the next few years and continue to play tennis and maybe even improve slightly my tennis game.
Gary, it is always good to talk to you. Your brain is a national treasure. It is full of interesting stuff, and I thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you. I enjoyed doing this. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,